Hello, young learners. We are back again to an interesting chapter. Madam rides the bus. You may misunderstand that a lady is going to ride a bus, but it's not that. The lesson is about an 8-year-old girl who had a strong desire or longing, along with it, the courage to fulfill her desire to travel by bus. This story tells us how innocently but responsibly she fulfilled her deepest desire and her experiences on the bus ride, and how an incident makes her realize the reality of death. Death is inevitable, right? So let's read to find what happened. Are you ready? And you know what the girl's name is? The girl's name is Valli Ammai, and you can call her Valli. And this story is written by Valli Kannan. Yes, come on, let's begin. There was a girl named Valli Ammai who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on her street. But this was about all she had to do. See, we're going to talk about whom? Valli Ammai. It's just a young little girl who was just 8 years old. And you can call her, for short, she's called Valli. And you know, her favorite pastime was just standing in front of the door, that is the main door of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her particular age on the street, so she didn't go and play outside also. This was all that she could do. Okay, and she was a very curious little girl. Curious means very eager to know or learn something. Okay. For Valli, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. See, she had nobody to play, right? She had no friends. So looking at the outside affairs was just as entertaining. Very entertaining it was, just to look from the door. So she learned a lot of things there. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that travelled between her village and the nearest town. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus filled each time with a new set of passengers was a source of unending joy for Valli. See, I told you she learned a lot of things. I knew that the best part that she liked was the arrival and departure of the bus that went from her village to the nearby town. The bus crossed the village street every 1 hour. So while she was looking at the bus, there were new people, new passengers, new set of passengers. Day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Valli would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams, and hopes. See what she did day after day, what happened? She was just watching the bus going and coming. And gradually, slowly, a tiny wish came into her head. Crept means crawled into or came into her head. And that grew bigger and bigger. And she wanted to just ride on that bus, at least go once in the bus. And this wish, became stronger and stronger until her desire, it was an overwhelming desire. Overwhelming means overflowed. So her desire became stronger and stronger. And every day, whenever the bus passed by, she used to stare wistfully. Wistfully means longingly. Longingly means ஒரு ஆசையோட. She used to just longingly stare at the people who got on and off the bus. Got it? And their faces would kindle. Kindle means அப்படியே ஒரு தூண்டுறது. Kindle means feelings over here. So it would kindle in her longings, dreams and hopes. One of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sights of the town to her. Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Neither she nor her friends really understood the meaning of the word, but they used it often as a slang expression of disapproval. See, her friends, suppose her friends went on the bus or they traveled, okay, by bus, and if they come and describe or tell that their experiences of traveling in the bus, Valli would feel so jealous because she had that longing, right? So she would feel so jealous and she didn't want to listen also. She just would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Proud means what? What is proud? Proud is being ரொம்ப haughty. Haughty means you can say ரொம்ப பெருமைப்படாத. This is how she used to shout in English. But she nor her friends knew the real meaning of the word. It was just used as a slang expression. Slang expression means often used within a small group. It's an informal word to show that disapproval, that she doesn't like to listen to what the others are saying. That is disapproval, not liking. You got it? Yeah. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly use the bus. And she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. The fare was 30 paise one way, which is almost nothing at all, she heard one well-dressed man say. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next, it seemed a fortune. The trip to the town took 45 minutes on reaching town. If she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she would return home on the same bus. See, over many days and months, she was just calculating, she was just planning and calculating so carefully, She was listening to the conversation between her neighbors, the other people talking, those who regularly traveled by bus. So she used to listen to their conversations, and she used to ask a few discreet means very careful questions that nobody can identify that she wants to travel by bus. So very careful questions she used to ask here and there, and she picked up various details about the bus journey. What are the details? The one is that is 6 miles, that the town was 6 miles from her village, it seems, and then the fare was how much? 30 paise one way, and also it took 45 minutes to reach the town. And if she had to stay back in her seat, if she goes by bus, and for 45 minutes she would travel, and there if she stays back, she can come back in the same bus. So she was calculating, planning, recalculating. This is what was happening. Yeah, this is what was happening every day. So this is how Valli was going on and on. Let's see what happened. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and be back home by about 2:45. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated, recalculated, planned and replanned. See, she had to just collect around 30 paise one way. So one way was 30 paise and another 30 paise to come back. So 60 paise was a big amount for her. And she thought of taking the 1 o'clock bus, that was in the afternoon, reach by 1:45 there. It took 45 minutes, isn't it? Then stay there for around 15 minutes, maybe the bus would halt for 15 minutes, and then come back by the same bus, and so she can reach home by what time? Around 2:45. So for all this she had to calculate and recalculate, plan and replan. So all this was happening with whom? With Valli. Let's see what happened.
Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" And a tiny hand was raised commandingly. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor, sticking his head out the door, said, "Hurry then! Tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me," shouted Wali. Yes, now what happened? Now finally one day she's planned and she has taken the bus. One fine spring day, a very pleasant day that afternoon. What did she do? She collected the money, she calculated, she has planned now. And as the bus was coming near her house, she started to say, stop the bus near the main highway. She never got into the bus near her house. She went to the main road. Okay. So she says, stop the bus. And a tiny hand was commandingly means what? It was ordering the bus to stop. So she was waving it. Then the conductor peeps out. He puts his head out the door and he says, hurry, whoever it is, ask them to come in. And so who's shouting now? Wali says, it's me. Let's see. I'm the one who has to get on. By now the bus had come to a stop and the conductor said, "Oh really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Wali, still standing outside the bus. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. Okay, but first you must get on the bus," said the conductor, and he stretched out a hand to help her up. "Never mind," she said. "I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me." The conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. "Oh, please, don't be angry with me, my fine madam," he said. "Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody move aside, please. Make way for madam." See? Yes, on hearing the voice, the bus slowed down. And he saw whom? Wali, a small little girl. The conductor asked her to tell the one who was supposed to travel, and he asked her to hurry up, isn't it? So when Wali told him that she was the passenger, he was shocked to see a small little young girl. So he stopped the bus. It was hard for the conductor to believe that she was about to travel alone. Then what he did, she immediately gave him the money to prove that she is coming by bus. So the conductor offered her help to climb up the bus because she was a small little girl, isn't it? So he gives his hand to lift her up. He stretched out his hand to lift her up, to help her. But she was very proud, this girl, very responsible and very proud she was, isn't it? So she says, "I need no help. I don't want anybody to help me. I can get in myself." See how she is? Yes. It was the slack time of day and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. They were all looking at Wali and laughing with the conductor. Wali was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she just walked quickly to an empty seat and sat down. See, when conductor, he offers her help, this girl refused, isn't it? The conductor sarcastically asked her not to be very angry with him, and he addressed her as madam. He calls her madam, and then he took her to the seat, and all the other passengers are also, he's asking the other passengers also to make way for her, to make way for that madam. Okay, and it was because it was an afternoon time. Not many people traveled. This is a slack time. Slack time means time when there is not much work. So very few, around 6 to 7 people were in the bus traveling. So all of them, all their eyes were on Wali, and they were all looking at her, who was going along with the conductor, and everyone started to laugh, and Wali felt very shy. So she hurried to her seat. So she went very quickly to her seat. She walked to her seat and she sat down over there. Isn't it? Yes. "May we start now, madam?" the conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice and the bus moved forward with a roar. It was a new bus. Its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. Directly in front of Valli, above the wind shield, there was a beautiful clock. The sheets were soft and luxurious. Valli devoured everything with her eyes. But when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. See, again with a sarcastic tone, The conductor says, he is asking her permission. Madam, can we leave? Are you ready? Can we start? He is asking. And then what he does, he blows the whistle twice so that he gives the signal to the driver to start the bus. The bus was very new, and Valli saw the outside of the bus very neatly painted with what? It was white and with the green stripes along the sides. The bus was painted like that. And inside, when she got in, she could see the overhead silver bars. When passengers, when they are standing in the bus, they hold that silver bars. Have you all seen that? Yeah. So that looked like silver. It was shining so bright. Okay. And then there was a clock kept above the windshield. Windshield is that have you seen that glass thing in front for the driver to see? So above that was the clock kept. Okay, so it was a beautiful clock, and all the seats were very comfortable, very luxurious, very soft for her. Okay, and all this was the things that Valli very quickly devoured. Devoured means, here devoured, actually the meaning of devoured is to eat in a hurry, you can say, but here devoured is used for reading quickly or very eagerly. Okay, so what she does is she quickly glanced at the bus and she devoured everything. She captured everything. And what she wanted to do is, she wanted to look out through the window. These small children always prefer the window seat. So this girl also was sitting near the window, and when she saw there was a canvas, the window was actually blocked. Half the window was blocked with a canvas kind of a cloth. Canvas, you know what canvas is? It's a fabric which is a little bit thick. You must have seen this shoes, canvas shoes, white shoes, that material. So that was blocking her window so that she couldn't see out. So she was short also, she was a very small girl. So what did she do? She stood up so that she can look outside properly. Let's see what happened. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side there was the canal, and beyond it palm trees, grassland, distant mountains and the blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green fields. Green, green, green as far as the eye could see. See, she could see so many things. She came across so many things. What were they? The canal. Canal is Vaikal and Sollam. And then the trees, the distant mountain. Distance na, ரொம்ப far off la you see those mountains, right? And the bright blue sky, and everything was so green, greenery all around. That's what she saw. Oh, it was all so wonderful. Suddenly she was startled by a voice. "Listen, child," said the voice. "You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down." Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his attention. So Valli was just enjoying a lot. Suddenly someone asked her to sit down, and it was an old man. He was showing concern. Concern means he was very much, he took care of her, so he wanted her to sit down. And but Valli was so annoyed. Annoyed means she became very angry. She didn't like somebody advising her. She didn't want anybody's help, isn't it? She was very proud. There's nobody here. Who's a child? She said haughtily. I've paid my 30 paise like everyone else. The conductor chimed in. Oh, sir, but this is a very grown up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone? Wali shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you have not yet given me my ticket. I'll remember, the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Everyone laughed, and gradually Wali too joined in the laughter. See, Wali was too proud, she didn't want anybody to help her. And she told the old man that she was not a child. And what she did was, she was just like the others traveling in the bus, and she's paid for it, she says. She's given the full fare, it seems. So the conductor enters, he interferes, and he says, see, why sir, why do you call her, why do you talk to her, because she's a grown-up madam. Can any child pay the full amount and travel by bus alone? But this girl has done it, the conductor says. Wali gets very angry, and she annoyingly, she told the conductor, don't call me madam. There's nobody here. Who's a child? She said haughtily. I've paid my 30 paise like everyone else. The conductor chimed in. Oh, sir, but this is a very grown-up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone? Wali shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you have not yet given me my ticket. I'll remember, the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Everyone laughed, and gradually Wali too joined in the laughter. See, Wali was very proud of herself, and she didn't want anybody's help. She says, the old man, she said, don't call me a child, because I have paid the full fare just like everyone else. Now the conductor enters, he interferes, and he says, see sir, don't think that she's a small child. She's a grown-up madam, because no child can pay her full ticket. And this girl has done it. So Wali gets very angry because he calls her madam. She says, don't call me madam. So the conductor, he immediately responded to her, mimicking her voice. Mimicking means making fun of her. Like he responded the same way as she spoke. And then everyone started to laugh. And after a few seconds, she also ended up laughing. The conductor punched a ticket and handed it to her. Just sit back and make yourself comfortable. Why should you stand when you have paid for a seat? Because I want to, she answered, standing up again. This girl is really very stubborn. The conductor gives her the ticket and he says, why do you have to stand, ma? You have paid the money for your seat. Sit. So she didn't want to listen to him. She says, no, I will do whatever I want. But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child. I'm not a child, I tell you, she said irritably. I'm 8 years old. Of course, how stupid of me. 8 years, my. The bus stopped, some new passengers got on, and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Wali finally sat down. Now see, the conductor says, come on ma, just sit down. There will be hums, there will be bumps, there will be sharp turns, and you may fall down and you may hurt yourself. So they were so concerned of that child. And he says, sit down, child. Immediately she gets angry. She says, I'm not a child. I'm 8 years old. Conductor says, of course, I'm so stupid. I'm calling an 8-year-old I'm calling an 8-year-old girl to be a kid, a child. I'm sorry, he says. And then by then the bus stopped in a bus stop. New passengers got in. The conductor became very busy issuing the tickets. And then as the passengers got in, this Vali was afraid of losing her seat. She may lose her seat, isn't it? So finally, what did she do? She sits down. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. Are you all alone, dear? She asked. Vali, as the bus started again, Vali found the woman absolutely repulsive. Such big holes she had in her ear lobes and such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing and see the betel juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Ah! Who could be sociable with such a person? Now she came across an old woman who was annoying her actually. First an old man annoyed her, now an old woman. And she's saying, are you traveling alone, my dear? She saw her and she found that woman absolutely repulsive. Repulsive means she'd never liked that lady. You know why? Because she had big holes in her ear lobes, it seems. You see that last part of your ear, so have you seen the old ladies having big earrings, and that hole will be too long. It will be hanging like that. And she could smell that betel nut smell on her. Betel nut is vetalapak smell. That juice was just trying to come out of that mouth. So dirty that lady looked. So she didn't want to actually answer her. So she says, who could be sociable with her? Sociable means who could be friendly with such a lady? Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly. And I've got a ticket too. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor, with a 30 paise ticket. Oh, why don't you mind your own business? Said Vali. But she laughed all the same, and the conductor laughed too. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you're going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? You needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Vali said, turning her face towards the window and staring out. See, she was so annoyed. Each one is annoying her. First the old man, now the old woman. She's asking a few questions and she answered curtly. Curtly means very rough she was when she answered. And conductor also interrupts very often. He says, yes, she paid 30 paisa and she's traveling to town. And immediately Vali says, can't you mind your own business? You look after yourself, she says. And both of them laugh at each other. But this old woman went on with her drivel. Drivel means that nonsense, asking many questions. She's asking so many questions to this small little girl. She didn't want to answer. She just turns her face towards the window and she says, don't bother me, don't trouble me like this, asking me questions. And she started staring out. First journey. What careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, and resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons and the like. And finally she had saved a total number of 60 paise. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair. But she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry-go-round even though she had the money. Now see, she has really planned for the journey, right? She has put innumerable amount of effort in planning and saving the money. For what? For the first journey, bus journey. And it was her dream ride, isn't it? So to have that ride in the bus, she has resisted every temptation. Temptation means she has avoided certain things that she has liked just to save money. Like She's a small girl, of course, so she will buy these peppermints, toys, balloons, all this she avoided, and she has saved how much? She has saved 60 paise. Thriftily means she has spent money so carefully. Such a responsible girl this girl is, and resolutely stifled means controlled with determination. What she has controlled with determination was, she really wanted to go on the merry-go-round, but still she has not been. It's because though she had money, she saved the money for the bus journey. Such a nice girl she is. After she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. But she managed this without too much difficulty. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Valli always used these hours for her excursions, as she stood looking from the doorway of her house, or sometimes even ventured out into the village. Today, these same hours could be used for her first excursion outside the village. See, now her financial problem has been dealt. Now the next problem is what? She has to sneak out of the house or go out of the house without anyone noticing her. You know, Valli's mother, usually she sleeps from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That is her time that her mother sleeps. From 1 to 4 she is asleep. So that particular time, she utilizes for going out near the village only. She goes out, she uses that, she ventured out. Ventured means went very carefully, courageously. So that part of the day she used to use. So now today, what has she used this for? She has used this part of the day to go out in the bus. She's going for an excursion outside the village. All these days she used to go inside the village. Today she has planned to go outside the village. The bus rolled on, now cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. Sometimes the shop seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them, or a pedestrian crossing the road, but lo, somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them, and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. So now the bus reached an area which had no trees. Now it's come to, I think, the town. It was a barren land, just land with few shrubs here and there. And it crossed a small settlement or shop by the road. Hamlet means it's a small settlement with a few houses. It's just with few houses. People are staying there. And a shop by the road. As the bus went with high speed, Valli thought that it is swallowing the oncoming vehicles. The bus is moving forward, and the vehicles which are coming in front, the pedestrians, pedestrians means the people who are walking on the roads. Okay, so it looked like as if everything, the bus is swallowing all of them. Swallowing means mulungirudu. So it looked like that. And when the bus was moving, she thought that the trees also were moving towards rushing towards the bus. And when the bus stopped, they also stopped. That's how, and when it appeared as if the trees were running away from the bus as the bus crossed them. So all this was the sight that she saw. Suddenly, Valli clapped her hands with glee. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast, right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped, always right in front of the bus. So what happened? Valli is very happy, so joyful. Sitting inside the bus, she is enjoying the whole sight over there. Suddenly she came across a cow which was running in the middle of the road and right in front of the bus. And the bus slowed down, and the driver Honked means what? He sounded his horn repeatedly, but the more the driver blew or he honked, what happened? The cow became wild and kept on running faster and faster. Somehow this was very funny to Valli. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. Hey lady, haven't you laughed enough? Called the conductor. Better save some for tomorrow. At last the cow moved off the road and soon the bus came to a railroad crossing. A speck of a train could be seen in the distance, growing bigger and bigger as it drew near. Then it rushed past the crossing gate with a tremendous roar and rattle, shaking the bus. Then the bus went on and passed the train station. This cow incident, it was really funny for Valli. She started laughing and laughing. The conductor says, he teases her. He says, hey, keep it for tomorrow. Enough of laughing. He says. So somehow the cow went off the road, and now the bus started to stopped at a level crossing from where the train was visible as a tiny dot, and as it came nearer it grew bigger. With a huge roar it came, shaking the entire road and the bus along with it. From there it traversed a busy, well laid out shopping street and turning entered a wider thoroughfare. Such big, bright looking shops, what glittering displays of clothes and other merchandise, such big crowds. Struck dumb with wonder, Valli gaped at everything. So from there it took a turn and it reached a wider road, and there big and beautiful shops, brightly lit shops on the roads. Everything was displayed. Merchandise for sale. Merchandise means it's a place where things are kept for sale. So all this attracted Valli, and all the lights and decorations. So she just glanced at each and everything. Then the bus stopped and everyone got off except Valli. Hey lady, said the conductor, aren't you ready to get off? This is as far as your 30 paisa takes you. No, Valli said, I am going back on the same bus. She took another 30 paise from her pocket and handed the coins to the conductor. Why? Is something the matter? No, nothing's the matter. I just felt like having a bus ride, that's all. Don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you're here? All by myself? Oh, I'd be much too afraid. Greatly amused by the girl's way of speaking, the conductor said, But you weren't afraid to come in the bus. Nothing to be afraid of about that, she answered. So the bus stopped now. It's come to the town. It has reached the town. The bus stopped. Everyone got down, but Valli never. So conductor is asking, he's having a conversation with Valli. He says, hey lady, what happened to you? Aren't you getting down? Your 30 paisa has brought you so far. But she says, no, I'm going to go back by the same bus. And here another 30 paisa she gives to the conductor. And the conductor said, you have come so far, why don't you have a look? But she says, no, I just wanted to have a bus ride, and I don't want to go by myself outside. So he is asking her, are you frightened? She said, no, I'm not afraid of anything, she answers. Well then, why not go to that stall over there and have something to drink? Nothing to be afraid of about that either. Oh no, I couldn't do that. Well then, let me bring you a cold drink. No, I don't have enough money. Just give me my ticket, that's all. It'll be my treat and not cost you anything. No, she said firmly. Please, no. The conductor shrugged, and they waited until it was time for the bus to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't much passengers. Won't your mother be looking for you? The conductor asked when he gave the girl her ticket. No one will be looking for me, she said. So conductor is again trying to, because he was attracted, or he was amused by the girl's way of speaking, So he says, see, there's a stall over there. Why don't you have something to drink? She says, no, I don't want to. So he says, no, can I get for you? She says, no. She's so firm. She says, no, I don't want. He says, I won't cost you anything. I won't ask you for money. She said, no, I don't want. So the conductor shrugged. He just lifts his shoulders and he says, okay, fine. And he goes, and there were again passengers getting in. And once he was giving the girl, Bali, the return ticket, he's asking her, won't your mother be looking for you? Won't she search for you? She says, no, nobody will be looking for me. The bus started, and again there were the same wonderful sights. Wali wasn't bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she'd felt the first time. But suddenly she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast moving vehicles. Isn't that the same cow that ran in front of the bus on our trip to town? She asked the conductor. The conductor nodded, and she was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature just a little while ago had now suddenly lost its charm and its life, and looked so horrible, so frightening as it lay there, legs spread eagled, a fixed stare in its lifeless eyes, blood all over. The bus started, the same wonderful sights she saw. It was not boring for her, again that same excitement. And suddenly, she came across a young cow lying dead by the roadside, isn't it? And there some vehicle had struck that cow. And the same cow that Wali saw when she was going to town. So she asks the conductor. The conductor says, yes, now the cow was dead. Such a lovable, beautiful creature. Within no time, just before a few, maybe hours, one hour before, just a while ago, they have seen this cow. But now, how is it? It was so beautiful when they looked then. But now, how has it become? Once it is dead, it has lost its charm, beauty, the life, and it looks so horrible, so frightening, with the legs spread eagle. Spread eagle means spread out like that, and blood all over. The sight was so horrible, so bad that she became very sad. Wali became very sad at that sight. The bus moved on. The memory of the dead cow haunted her, dampening her enthusiasm. She no longer wanted to look out the window. She sat thus, glued to her seat, until the bus reached her village at 3:40. She stood up and stretched herself. Now see, she totally lost her interest. She was not as enthusiastic as she was before, because that dead cow, that memory of that dead cow haunted her. Haunted her means it was impossible for her to forget that incident. So that was going on and on in her mind. So from when she saw that dead cow, she stopped looking outside the window, and she just sat in her seat. And at 3:40 she reached her village. She just stretched herself and she got down. Then she turned to the conductor and said, well, sir, I hope to see you again. Okay, madam, he answered her, smiling. Whenever you feel like a bus ride, come and join us. And don't forget to bring your fare. She laughed and jumped down from the bus. Then away she went, running straight for home. So she has reached home. She got down from the bus. The conductor says, whenever you feel like coming, come back. And she says, bye, I hope to see you again. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of Wali's aunts, the one from South Street. This aunt was a real chatterbox, never closing her mouth. Once she started talking. And where have you been? Said her aunt when Wali came in. She spoke very casually, not expecting a reply. So Wali just smiled, and her mother and aunt went on with their conversation. Now she comes in, and when she comes in, she finds her mother awake. She's talking to one of her aunt, and that aunt is a chatterbox. Chatterbox means she keeps talking and talking and talking, never ending. and then she asks her Vali a question. And she is very casual, and then they continue their conversation, aunt and the mother. Yes, you're right, her mother said. So many things in our midst and in the world outside. How can we possibly know about everything? And even when we do know about something, we often can't understand it completely, can we? Oh, yes, breathed Vali. What? Asked her mother. What's that you say? Oh, said Vali. I was just agreeing with what you said about things happening without our knowledge. Just a chit of a girl, she is, said her aunt. And yet, look how she pokes her nose into our conversation, just as though she were a grown lady. Vali smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile, but then there wasn't much chance of that, was there? So, what happens? They are continuing their conversation, and their conversation, was something like they are talking about the incident what has happened to Vali. It was like relating to her journey, and she has done something without knowing her mother, isn't it? So, their conversation was continuing like that, and Vali in between says, yes, what you're telling is true, because sometimes you cannot understand anything completely, and we do not come to know also everything, isn't it? So her mother is asking, what did you say? Vali says, no, I was just agreeing with what you were talking. So this lady, this aunt, she says, see how she pokes her nose. Pokes her nose means takes an interest in something that she is not supposed to. So we say, no, when elders are talking, children should not interrupt or talk in between. So that is what has happened. Then they continue to talk to each other. But Vali alone knows. She just smiles and she walks off. She alone knows the smile. She only can understand her smile. But then there wasn't much chance of that, was there? Nobody knew as to how cleverly and how responsibly this girl, without anyone's knowledge, has traveled to town for an hour and come back. Okay, so this girl is really great, and because the conductor is going on calling her madam, 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 based on that is the lesson, madam rides the bus. So I think all of you understood the chapter. It's a big chapter, but still it was nice, a humorous one. Okay, but be very careful not to do as this girl did, because this girl was responsible. She came back, but you don't try all this. Okay, without your parents' knowledge, you're not supposed to do all such things. Okay, children, thank you very, very much.